Welcome to the United State of Us podcast. I'm Erin Flood, and today I have to admit I'm having kind of a starstruck moment here. I have on author and actress and mother, and she's going to tell us all about her life, Shannon Kenny Carbonell. Welcome to the show. I am honored to have you with us.
Thank you, Erin. It's lovely to be here. It really is.
Um, okay, so we're just gonna get right into it because I have notes and pages marked in your book, and I can't wait to talk to you about your life. So tell us a
Great.
little bit about the roles and the titles that you hold in your life right now.
Okay. So my title is Mom, I suppose. Um, I am a wife to my husband, Nestor, and I am mom to my 19-year-old who is right up there asleep. He gets in late, home from college, and mom to my 16-year-old over there who is just gone back to school, thank God,
Yeah.
and is in ninth grade, finishing it out for the last, maybe the next 3 weeks. But he actually has a day off today. They have a teacher conference day and vaccination day. Strange. Yeah. And I guess I am writer. Strange title, writer of memoir, All Is Not Lost, and friend, and daughter, and sister.
Okay, well, there's so much that I want to talk about with those titles that you hold and the roles that you play from your book, which I have to say, I loved so much and can't wait to dive into it deeper with you. It was so relatable and beautifully written, and it's a
Thank
great
you.
book.
Oh, I'm really happy that it touched you in some way. That's really all I want. So I'm really happy. Good.
Um, okay, so if you had to not just use the roles and the titles that you hold to describe yourself, can you just tell us about what you feel like is kind of the essence of you if you had to describe yourself?
Okay, that's a really hard question, isn't it? Oh, for me. Um, I think I am open. I think I am, especially with the boys, loving
Mhm.
and cheerful, and very positive. I think with Nestor, I am sort of grounded, open, really real, and not just less sort of positive, more he gets more of me, the real me, and just the nuts and bolts. And I think I get that of him too. We give each other every sort of every nuance of ourselves. And then I think I'm fun. And with mom and dad, you put on different roles, I guess, for every different person. With mom and dad, I'm positive, and yet when everything goes down, I'm their baby, maybe. And yet then sometimes I'm mothering my mom too. So I guess I can be mothering, fun, uh, oh, and a neurotic mess at times.
Yeah, aren't we all?
And a pile, yeah, and a pile of sadness, and then uh oh, I'm not type A. I'm an unorganized mess. Uh Much to Nestor's dismay. And
Well,
yet
it seems like you balance each other well, though.
we do actually very well. And I think I'm a partner.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hard.
I,
I
it is hard. Well, because it they all bleed together, right? So much of what you choose to do or where you find yourself in your roles is based on who you are, right? So it's hard to
Yeah,
separate them.
I think, I don't want to just paint myself in glowing terms either. I think like the thing that people would not like, I'm sort of like, Jerry Seinfeld's mom, when somebody doesn't like him, she's like, how could they not like Jerry? I'm like, how could they not like me? And then, but I think if people didn't like me, I would think it was because I was opinionated.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you talked about how, oh, I'm feels crazy to say I'm an author or I'm a writer, although reading your book, which I have right here, and it's like all marked up, and
I
I
love
mean, it
that.
was excellent.
Yeah.
Um, I am not surprised that you are a writer after hearing all of this, or reading all of this. And I want to talk about your book today because a lot of what I talk about on my podcast with women is um, big life transitions.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And I was a high school English teacher, and then I was a school principal. Of a school actually where my kids attend school now. I was a principal,
Wow.
and 4 years ago, I chose to had the privilege of being able to stay home with our boys. And I have to
Yes.
tell you, I struggled,
Yeah.
really, really struggled. And so the audience knows, if they have not read the book yet, this story really is about, in my um just observation, one of the things that this story is about is you coming into your own and figuring out who you are without the title and the accolades of being an actress, right?
Yes. Yeah. Or having a career
Yeah.
like you. Yes, it really is. And it's so interesting that you said you had the privilege of staying home, because I felt the same thing. It's sort of this the guilt on top of that, of not feeling settled after having the privilege. And there's a lot of talk about, white privilege and all this stuff. And that's a whole different thing, I think, because even when we were feeling this, that talk wasn't around. But I was very cognizant of the fact that there were so many women who don't have the choice, and how lucky we were. And I mean, I contributed when I was acting a lot to our income. So we were giving up stuff, we were going to have to give up a lot of stuff with me leaving, but we could do it. And so I knew I was lucky, and I knew I was even lucky to have kids, because I had a couple of girlfriends, as I write in the book, that were struggling with infertility. So to then have my children and then be able to stay at home with them, which was my pull, basically, even though I had really wanted this career since I was like 9. And I wanted a big career, I had like 9-year-old dreams that I'd sort of stuck to. And then finding that, like you, as soon as I made the choice, I did it, I was home with my 2 babies, that I was not settled, and I didn't feel good about it. Was really, really unsettling. And I had so much guilt, like I was a brat, I was a spoiled brat, and how dare I? And I shouldn't even speak up about it, which I didn't to many people at all, mostly Nestor and my friends, but really the deep, dark sort of, I don't want to say horror, it wasn't horror, but the deep, dark feelings and the surprise about the feelings that I had, almost immediately after quitting, going to my manager and saying, I'm not going to be an actress. Those feelings of loss and like, who am I now? I didn't really tell anybody but Nestor. And that was really shocking that I had that. I did not expect that, to feel that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're saying so many relatable things. One is, I love that you're describing it as like you just didn't feel settled.
no, I didn't. I
Yeah.
felt, yeah, I felt like, well, I mean, this is not just acting, and I'm sure there's other careers that it's the same thing, but with acting too, it's like you come up with a group of people too, and girls and guys that are of your, like, that you know them, and you see the girls at auditions all the time, and you kind of become friends.
Yeah.
I'm just having some water.
Sure.
And you all know, and you track each other's careers, and you see people really take off and work, and then you see each other at work, and there is this feeling that once you got to sort of our age, that people were leaving, and then some people, the work was drying up, and it's a competitive business too. And so I got the feeling that, oh my God, I am just another one that bit the dust.
Yeah.
I am, and it's a horrible way to put it, but I am one of the losers. I'm a loser. I lost the race. I quit the marathon. And meanwhile, Nestor was doing great too. And it was almost like I felt like I was in a competition with him that I didn't even know I was in, with my own husband. It was like, oh my gosh, we were in this 2-person race that I had no idea I was in, and I lost it and he won it. And now I'm sitting at the kids' table and he's still playing with the adults. And I really love him, and I want him to win too, because I want money as much as anybody, and I want him to do well, and I want him happy.
Yep.
But and that's what I felt like. I'm a loser, and here I am now. I'm a mom, and no matter what joy you get from your kids, and there's like a ton of it, right? There's all, and you want to, your job is to mold these kids in whatever mantra you want for them, to be good and kind. That was like what I wanted. And I wanted them to go out in the world and be self-sufficient. So I was, I knew my job was to gently push them out of the nest. But the monotony of motherhood is real. And so you're sitting there, like playing, trains, and being tired, and like almost falling asleep, and you're like, oh my God, how the F did I get stuck here doing this? And you can't love with joy and sparkle and bubbles 24/7. You just can't do it. And I felt like, oh, this is it now. This is what I am. And then Nestor would come home and I'd be like, hi. And how are you? I'm nothing. I'm nothing. I do nothing.
Yeah.
I'm a nothing. Why did I, what about what happened? I had these dreams. I came to this country, and, of course he'd say, you're not, you did it, you worked so much, blah, blah, blah. But I really felt like there was part of me that was nothing anymore. And
Yeah.
it's a really bad, it's such bad self-talk, it's terrible. But
Yeah.
I was there, and it's just a horrible place to be.
So you brought up that you had these dreams for since childhood, since 9 years old. And in your book, there's a phrase that appears repeatedly in bold, that Shannon Kenny will be a famous actress. And you wrote it, I think, in nail polish, right?
I did. I still have it upstairs. I was actually cleaning that drawer out last night, and I was just sorting through stuff, and it's there sitting in the box. Yep.
Yeah. So this is, and it makes me kind of chuckle a little because, I'm like, try to create a vision board every year to like really focus myself, and what do I want to put out my energy into the universe. And you at 9 years old, we're smart enough, whether you know it or not, but to like put that energy into the world and create kind of your own vision statement or your own vision board, and figure out a way to send that, energy into the world. And obviously with a lot of determination and grit and hard work and sacrifice, you were able to make it come true, right?
Yeah.
And then to also know, well, gosh, now I have these two little people in my life, right? Your sons.
Yeah.
my love for them is so overwhelming, and my desire to care for them and to be the kind of mother I know, as you say, like that God made me to be. Um,
Yes.
I need to give up something that I thought was always how I would identify myself, or the biggest
Yeah.
role I would play.
Yeah.
And you talk about a funny moment, and I just have to, do you mind if I read your words to you? Is that okay?
No, no, go ahead. I love to hear you read them.
So you're talking about a moment where it's shortly after you said, like, I'm done, and you were at an event with Nestor and you met Jimmy Fallon.
Ah, yes.
And I have to tell you, as a boy mom, I am like, I was in this moment with you. Okay, so you say, suddenly, my desire to be perceived as a frighteningly talented, timeless beauty with a savvy intellect and limitless potential, who, after having children, had no choice but to succumb to her truest mothering instincts and quit acting so she could selflessly uber present in her boys' lucky lives, had been foiled by a wall of fart and an immediate need to get my kids out of there and walk off the stench. Can you just tell
Oh,
us, because I think I
oh
want everyone to know how relatable your story is. Here you step out, you're at a press event with your husband, who, if they don't know, was on Lost and is now on probably one of my very favorite shows ever, The Morning Show, which
the morning show. Yeah.
uh,
Yes.
I can't wait for season 2 to come out. I mean,
Yes. Yes. They've almost wrapped the filming, I think. Yeah. Yep.
so exciting. So, and now you're at this event, and really, I just identify with that mental transition where, like, you want the world, you think that just because you stepped away from something, the whole world starts to view you very differently, right? And really,
Yes.
they
And when
probably
they're really not watching.
no.
So,
I mean, they do and they don't. But so now you're at this event, and you're the one who's really struggling with how you identify yourself and how you're being perceived. And you think, like, okay, well, mom still got it. I've still got it. I'm at this event and I'm feeling okay about myself. And I've got my 2 boys with me, and I'm hanging with Jimmy Fallon trying to look cool. And one of the boys has some gas, and you would
let's
there
rip.
stand in the pool of stink. And you're like, and this is where I am.
Oh, it was awful because I was talking to Jimmy because he was waiting to interview the cast.
Yes.
And he was just sort of standing there twiddling his thumbs. And I was just sort of standing there waiting for Nestor because I had to be let out by Nestor to go wherever the next thing was. And we had just played the boys. We had just, what was it called again? Rock Band. Rock Band had just come out. And we were having so much fun with them playing on the thing. And the Blue Oyster Cult song came on. What was it called? The one they did on Saturday Night Live. The more cowbell. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever that song is. And we were playing that song. There's a really great song to play on the Rock Band thing, because it's just like, I can't remember the song, but and so we were playing it, and the kids loved playing that song. And then we thought, oh, we'll show them the skit, more cowbell. I want more cowbell or whatever. And then what's that great actor's Will Ferrell was like gyrating with his bare belly. And
So
Jimmy Fallon is always so funny because he sort of plays a straight guy, but he could never stop laughing. So he's in the back cracking up. And we just had showed it to them like the day before. And they loved the skit. And so there we are the next day, and there's Jimmy Fallon. And so I could show the boys, this is the guy on the skit.
yeah.
And he's just standing there. And I'm not usually one to like approach celebrities or stuff. I mean, sometimes I do I tried to approach Oprah once, but I just couldn't do it. It was too overwhelming. So I'm just not that great at approaching celebrities, even though I get really starstruck. So he was right there, and he was waiting, and we were waiting, and the boys were like, climbing up and down on me, and I just thought, this is just it's just too coincidental. so I introduced us to Jimmy. I'm like, Jimmy, um, I'm Shannon, and these are my two kids, and I'm married to Nestor, and we just played the song on We Rock Band, and I showed the boys the skit, and he couldn't have been sweeter. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's so great, so nice to meet you, Rafa, Marco," and he's like, and I'm not joking, one of them let out one of the worst farts I've ever smelled. It was just fresh, fresh and right there, just just beautiful. and and of course he didn't know it was his. He knew it wasn't his fart. And
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't my fart, but he didn't know it wasn't my fart. And all I kept thinking was, he thinks it's me. He thinks this is my fart. And it was like I could just see his face shift to this slight, like a sniff. And it was like, he thinks it's me. I know he thinks it's me. And it was just so disappointing. And I remember just like saying to Nestor, we're leaving. I'm just going to leave the convention center because it was all taking too long. And I'll just never forget just ushering the kids out. And it was really hot out in San Diego. We're in San Diego. And just feeling so, I mean, it was funny, but it wasn't funny to me at the time. It was so deflating. Literally, it
Yeah.
was just like, oh, and then I felt like, why did I even suck up to Jimmy Fallon? Like, what am I trying to be? It became a real moment. Like, who am I trying to be?
Yeah.
Why was I trying to be that person? Like, why was I trying to put on that image, that face? I wasn't feeling like that person even. And who was I pretending to be? And then sort of out in the, and I still, you see, when you read that vow, there's one word in that vow that screwed me up for years, and it was famous.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't say I wanted to be an actress. I said I wanted to be a famous actress.
Mm.
And even though I did go to theater school and I really learned my craft, and for 4 years I went to drama school, and I ended up loving acting and doing plays and regional theater, and in the I had to come to term, I had to really, in this journey of sort of healing, I had to realize that, but I hadn't realized that then. And it was the famous actress. So then once I went outside in San Diego with all the other, there were tons of moms and kids, and I felt like I had this weird conditioned response of like, I'm just like everybody else.
Mm.
And that even disgusted me. I'm like, well, who the hell are you? Who the hell am I? Why do I want to be better than everybody else? Then I was disgusting myself. Like, it's so easy to be a mom, and anybody can be a mom. Like, what achievement is that? And it was so superficial. The thinking was, and yet if I felt like I've brainwashed myself since the age of 9 to want to be famous. And fame is like a really, really tricky business, right? And so I'm glomming onto this famous Jimmy Fallon, trying to, if he would like me, then, and all the people that like him, hundreds of millions of people like Jimmy Fallon. So if I got some positive energy off of Jimmy Fallon, then maybe hundreds and thousands and millions of people would like me. It's a very strange, that's why people really cling on to celebrities, I think. And it's not real. There's nothing real about it. And yet I really was going in that direction, that at that moment, even though I knew it was dumb, it's like something in me wanted that. And I think it was the same with, and Nestor, there's lots of people fawning over Nestor, wanting his autograph and all that whole weekend because it was Comic-Con. And there was something in me that felt really small. I felt small. I felt small for doing it, even though it was fun and funny and it's a funny story. It felt really small. And then when I got out and started judging other moms, I felt even smaller.
Yeah.
Like it was just such a weird, self-shaming. And then it was also like, this is why I had to come to this place. It's like, well, aren't my kids enough?
Yeah.
That makes me really sad. It's like, well, why weren't my kids enough? They're just great kids, and we are so happy with them. And I thought, what? I don't know. That I really was beating myself up at that time, and it's really not good.
But I think that's why the story is so relatable
Yeah,
because I mean, I certainly was not, famous but like stepping back from, you talked about there's a group of friends that you build in your career. I certainly felt like I had that, kind of your
yeah,
build career community and you step away from that and but they keep going on, right? And
yes,
it feels like, and I actually wrote a blog about this, I felt like all the things that I had done in my professional life, I wanted to be like in permanent marker and, like have some acknowledgement that I did enough or that it was like
yes,
good enough, or I needed that validation at that time of my life because while I was reinventing myself,
yeah,
I just needed somebody to tell me that it was okay and that was good and I was still good, if I didn't
yeah.
do it. And then stepping into this role at home with my kids, I I mean, I relate to that kind of self-deprecating talk.
Yeah,
Why can't this be enough for you? Like, what's wrong with you that you need
yeah,
more than this? People would kill for this. People would, give up so many other things to be able to stay home or to have two healthy children or,
yeah,
to have a husband that's supportive about you staying home and so I think it's easy then when you're already in that kind of lost space, you've forgotten maybe the pillars or the values to ground yourself on. And so
yeah.
as you're searching for them, I like made up this whole other narrative about myself in my head, which all it did was continue to just make me feel worse about myself, and shame is shame is an
It's
ugly.
yes. How did you get out of it? I'm so curious.
To be honest, I feel like some days I'm still getting out of it, but
Mm,
I I know that like the only anecdote for shame and guilt and is like when I connect with other people and I figure out how I can use I guess the gifts or talents God gave me to
yes,
serve other people. And
yes,
so it was like starting this podcast, that was huge.
yes.
Blogging,
Yep.
it was finding, I was able to volunteer at my kids' school, or
Yeah.
there's organizations in our community that specifically support women and children. And I was like, go and connect, see how you can serve. If you want to feel differently about yourself, you have to do something for yourself and not wait for somebody else externally
Right.
to give it, and
It's
it's
it's so
it's
good to hear that for me because I've gotten letters from a lot of women, and it's just I love hearing that from you because it's I I know that I knew I wasn't alone.
you're not.
Yeah, and you did the pivot. And of course it's just by looking inward, right? It's just by stopping that talk and figuring out what's wrong inside. And just yeah, there's just a whole lot of internal stuff you need to figure out. And it's not the way the world sees you, right? It's the way you see you.
100.
Yeah, because nobody really cares. I say that to Nestor sometimes. It's so funny. He says you got to take your own advice because you'll go, oh, I just didn't feel good about that line. We taped a scene and he might have had 20 lines, but he's like, it's just one line. I didn't feel like just didn't feel like I got it, whatever. I was like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Don't worry. No one's looking at that one line, so sometimes he goes, just remember, Shannon, nobody cares. Nobody cares. So
Okay, can I read this other part too that you referred to? I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, you brought up that suddenly you felt like you were almost finding yourself being competitive with Nestor. And you said,
Mhm.
it seemed to me suddenly that I had lost a two-person race,
Right.
a race I didn't even know I was in until I stumbled across the finish line and realized Nestor had already won. But Nestor had no idea he was in the race either. None of it was his fault. But as much as I tried to fight it, I resented him for getting to go to work, for carrying out with the life we'd both worked so hard to build when we met. I felt stuck, left behind at the kids' table while watching him dine with the adults. So I'd piled my frustrations on him and on him alone. He sensed my resentment and he'd been hiding out more and more. And I'd been getting angrier and angrier about it. The reason why this passage jumped out at me is that in the transition I was in, now my husband and I are not at all in the same um, field of work, but I even felt this and have had other women on my podcast who have very much felt this way even when they first gave birth to their kids and they're home with an infant
Yes.
and their spouses have been like going back to work, because I mean,
Yes.
out of necessity, they had to. And yet, even though
Yes.
I knew like our bills need to be paid and he's supporting us on this career, and I found myself resentful both in kind of the newborn stage of my life and when I feel like I was sort of a newborn in the stage of my life of like reinventing myself.
Yeah.
I felt that resentment that he just got to keep going and had that time like blocked off for him while I had to sit kind of in my own head in this house and figure it out.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. It's so confusing
Mhm.
because they have to do what they're doing. We all need the support. We need the financial, I mean, we've got to live. And yet, so they're good men doing the right thing. And yet the resentment is just there. So it's confusing and then it's so hard to like, sometimes you just follow through with the resentment when you know you shouldn't.
Yep.
And then they're confused and then they also understand, like Nestor. The good thing about having the same job is that you get treated like, I mean, it's so cushy for an actor on a set. Everybody bows to you and everyone's, are you okay? Are you okay? Can I get you something? Can I do, and then they're lighting the set and you get to go off in your little trailer. You can take a nap, you can do anything, it's the hard part is getting the job, frankly. But so he knew, he was pretty cognizant of what I was going through. And he knew then, I did work with Rafa uh, for the first couple of years. So there were times I would be off at work and he'd have to mind the baby, and he knew that that was hard. So we did have that, but yeah, it was yeah, that's a conflict. And then I actually felt like I was pushing him away, and I could feel this sort of freeze happening between us. And that's also scary too, because I love Nestor. Like I really, he's the person I love being with the most, and I'm pushing him away. It's
Yeah.
very scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have not talked about this on a podcast before, but we definitely, went through that stage as well. And I feel like you're so brave to just say, I knew what I was doing. I knew why it was happening. And I also found it hard to stop myself from continuing to do it,
I did.
because I think at different phases of marriage is hard. It's wonderful, but it's
Mm.
hard.
It's work.
Because
Yeah.
you're both really, you're raising yourself. You're finishing the job of raising yourself
Mm.
through all of these experiences,
That's so
So,
smart. You are. That's such a great way to put it.
and
Yes.
sometimes I forgot that he was doing that too. I was like, well, I'm the one that's growing and changing and figuring these. He is too, just with his own things in a different way. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think in marriage, it's really easy to not give the other person that grace or generosity,
Mm.
because you're so stuck in your own head sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it's also the difference between men and women. As women, we're obviously very verbal and communicative. And so then I just hate this, that we get the reputation for being whiners and naggers. But really, it's just sort of the way we're trying to communicate our discomfort, right? But men are very stoic. And so, but it's like we're chasing their stoicism, right? Like, it's like, well, if you're not going to say anything, like you're like, honey, honey, could you please, would you mind, you said you were going to, there's one thing Nestor was going to do forever. What was it? And it just, oh, could you, there's all these dead branches on the olive tree. It was like 2 years. So could you cut the olive tree branches? Do you mind? Because the guy said it's going to wreck the air conditioner, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'll do that in like 2 months. Nestor, do you mind? Could you cut those olive tree branches? Nestor, could you please cut the olive tree branches? Because really, you need to cut the olive tree branches, and then you sound like a nag. But it's like, what are you meant to do? And then his friends are like, oh, you're like under the thumb. Whoa, look at that one. It's like, but come on, some of it's reactionary. But it is hard because of our differences, men and women. And then I feel always so bad about being a nagger, but I don't know. What are you going to do? But the same thing is when we express all our discomfort, it's because we're known as complainers. But sometimes you just have to, there he is, the man himself.
I think you asked me twice to cut.
I did not.
Two times.
I asked him for 2 years and he did it eventually, like a week ago.
That's amazing. I love that.
But yeah, so it's like, but nobody ever says, oh, men, they're so stoic. It's funny. Sometimes we are reactive to what men give us, which is also their natural. Men are different. That's their natural way of being. But why does the way we react to it have to be so prickly? I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, yes, but that thing that I was doing and yeah, I want to stop myself doing it, but literally sometimes it's a runaway train, which is also very interesting because at the same time, we're trying to teach our kids restraint. Don't yell, don't hit, restrain yourself. And then you can't do it yourself. It's like, ooh, that's not good.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad you brought up the kids. Again, just for the audience who hasn't read your book, much of the story takes place during your time in Hawaii when you were transferred there so that Nestor could film Lost.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about your kids in all of this. And one of the things, again, that I think you were brave to talk about was that as you were going through this transition and you knew you had your own things to work on, you began to see some of the maybe behaviors or even have some new awarenesses about your kids and their behaviors and things that they may need help with. And I think a lot of times as adults, we want to say kids are resilient. Kids are resilient. I mean, that's true. Kids are resilient, but kids also absorb and feel and are very intuitive and observe so much because that's how they learn. They learn by observing the world around them, and they're primed and ready in that stage to be doing all of those things, So can you just tell us a little bit about um, just kind of your journey as a mother during that point in time and how you were able to um, maybe become better aware or identify better the ways your kids needed you to show up as their mom?
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, there was, well, right off the bat, I think my older one, who was only 7 then, he had a lot of transitional issues. We noticed he was started to have night terrors.
Yeah.
Right before we before we left and when we were there. So we just noticed he just had trouble with the transition and was scared,
Yeah.
just like I was.
Yeah,
And
loves that. You talked about your fear, like, oh my gosh, I'm identifying that he probably is struggling with some of these same things. So sorry to.
yes, it was no, it was really interesting because I realized he is going to be in a place where he knows nobody at all. And it was sort of, poetic to, when you're writing a book. It reminded me of everything I had given up when I first came to America, to leave everybody that I knew to be an actress, like how singular that vision was. But yes, it also reminded me that I have to be really aware of this. And maybe at the beginning I sort of over dramatized it, but I realized he's not me. He's 7, and it's gonna be very hard for him to know nobody. But it's not the life I chose. And so there was sort of that, sort of the difference of that. Is my dog. But it's very, what's really interesting now that he is coming home from college, because my experience was too that I went to America to go to theater school, and then it's almost like I broke from my life in Australia to live this life I had imagined. And then whenever I went home to Australia, it was never the same. It was always, I'd made that break, and there was almost no going back, even though I loved everybody and it was my home. But once I made that first break, it was never the same. And I did say to my son coming home this summer, I said, I really want you to know, Rafa, that if you feel weird and a bit sad and a bit depressed this summer, it's normal. And don't take it out on us because it's just that you've gone, and that you've made the break, and your home is very different now. It's not quite here now. It probably is not quite there either. So
Yes.
you're going to feel a little strange. So just be aware of that, while you're here, and that you're going to probably feel the need to break out of here a lot. And he's going out a lot. He's 19, so he should. But he was like, oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm going to, I'll remember that, because I think like that was really important for me to know. Like I had a lot of trouble with that. Like, what have I done? I've left my country, and I don't know where I belong now. But that was a big thing for me to sort of realize after the fact, that yeah, I made that break for this really intense purpose, and it all worked out beautifully, really in the end. But it was a very hard thing to know when you were 18 and 19, going back home for the summer. I only went home for 2 summers, and then I stayed here and worked, because you sort of like, you can never go back, it's that sort of thing. And then with my little one, yeah, a lot of what he was suffering, I don't want to give too much away for his privacy, but some of the stuff he was suffering ended up being a little more lifelong. Like, he's got some stuff so we were seeing the beginnings of a lot of stuff, but he deals with it beautifully. He's got some stuff to deal with.
Well, and
Anyway.
the reason why I thought it was so important that you included some of the interactions that you had when your kids were struggling was much more about what it told you you needed to just dig into for yourself. Like,
Yes.
why am I reacting to my child this way? Or when he won't get on his bike and come with me, like, what is that awakening inside of me?
Oh yes,
You know
now
what I
I'm
mean? Like,
remembering that.
yeah.
Yes.
So I just think it's like you were just you included some really,
Unattractive moments.
no, but I think it's so relatable, because every mother, I mean, if they're being honest, and maybe there's one who's going to write me and be like, it wasn't me and you're wrong, and that's fine. But, there are these moments of like, when you have a power struggle with a child, or where you think, well, I had envisioned in my mind how this was going to go. And now suddenly you're going to derail this whole thing for the family, or you're going to, it's like,
Yes,
wait a minute. And then you have to ask yourself, but why am I so attached to the picture that I was coming into this with?
that's right. Because I wanted, that day is so interesting because I just wanted to escape. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to escape my mundane day-to-day life and have an adventure. And he screwed it up for me.
I'm not going to ride your bike or his bike. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if he sensed it, he sensed it that mom wanted to just go away somewhere and kind of be in a moment that no real moms of 4-year-olds can really be in yet. Yeah. And he was giving me a reality check. You're right. I forgot about that.
But I
Yes.
loved it.
Yes.
It's so relatable.
Yeah. Because yes, yes. That's right. And I had realized he's he was, I was in a little bit of adventure mode. And things were really kind of clicking for me too. I was really in a place where the journey that I'd taken was really actually working, and I was figuring out a lot of stuff, and Hawaii was really powerful, and it was I was getting into a really good place, and things were great. And I think I got a little carried away with myself. And I'm like, I'm figuring this out, and this is really good. And his teacher had called us in because he'd been acting very strangely. And he's usually really obedient. And we were like shocked that Marco had done anything naughty. And we kind of laughed about it. Even when the teacher was telling me, I got the giggles because he was so cute. He was 4. He was just so cute. And then the night before at Halloween, I'd seen him walking around and he seemed a little lost. And yet I was still caught up in this sort of magic of Hawaii. And it was like a healing balm kind of working all over me. And then the next day I wanted this big adventure. And he said, pay attention to me. I'm 4. I'm 4. You've got problems. And I'm glad it's going well for you that you're figuring it out. But you need to pay attention to me. I need some work. I need some work done on me right now. And I feel a little neglected. And for me, that would be the worst thing, I'm neglecting my 4-year-old because I was really, wanting to be a great mom. And I kind of was. And he let me know right there and then. And I was pissed at him. And he was pissed at me. And we had a standoff. And yeah, yes. Isn't it amazing the way kids do? They teach you and they tell you what they need.
Well, that's what I mean. They're so smart because they also they know us better than we know ourselves sometimes,
I know, they really do. My older son, it was college time, time to get into college. And we had always taught both of our kids, don't be victims. We don't want you to be victims. We want you to, work hard, strive, keep working, but don't ever see yourself as a victim in this world. You just take it and you move on. Anyway, so he was getting these college acceptances, and it was his birthday. And he got rejected from 3 colleges on the same day, and it was his birthday. And, he took it. It was kind of hard. And when he left the room, Nestor and I were so bitter and twisted. We're like, this kid had a lesser score. He had better subject tests. Rafa had better subject test grades than he did. This is ridiculous. They must have thrown money at that school. Blah, 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 blah. And then Rafa came out and heard us, and he said, guys, what are you doing? You told me never to be a victim. what are you guys doing? You're so bitter. And we looked at him, we're like, oh, you're right, Rafa, sorry. Yes, we did teach you that. Yes, sorry. We're like, he was teaching us our lesson. And then he went back and we heard him like 10 minutes later calling his friends, laughing, having it, like he was over it. And we were the ones that needed to learn our lesson. And we're like, wow, we taught him pretty well.
Yeah.
And we're not even doing it. So they do teach you, these children.
Um, what one other thing that I think kind of mirrors that is a story that you told about when your parents came to visit you in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And you and your dad had a bit of an argument, but in that you realized that your dad could have been going through something parallel to what you were going through,
Yeah.
stepping away from his career, and then also watching his children really get to a point of independence or both be at a point of transition where you and your brother were really needing to figure things out for your own life before you were able to have input from your parents again, because otherwise it feels sort of restrictive and, too
Yes.
parenty. And then as you kind of found yourself on the island, the next visit, you were actually able to like receive more of his input or his parenting because you were confident and settled again in who you were. And so it was easier to kind of have that interaction with him. How do you, you just gave us a great example of kind of your own parenting interaction, but how do you use that as a guidepost in your own parenting? Because I feel like it's such a beautiful observation about your dad.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like there's a great, I don't know who said it, but to be a good parent, you have to try to mess your kids up 50% less than your parents messed you up.
I love that. Okay.
That's what I try to do. So I sort of I try to do, like, I feel like I keep the really good things that my parents, I mean, they did it so much good. Like I'm sort of a traditionalist in that way, the discipline and the really strong values. Like I didn't bounce the whole other way and be like, no, you can do whatever you want and blah, blah, blah. But I do try to cut out some of the control.
Yeah.
I just yeah, I just, we all have flaws. I'm sure I'm going to mess my kids up in other ways, but I just sort of see some of the, like, I feel some of the stuff that, parents, your parents, I'm going to mess my parents up just as much as they sort of messed us up, which is not even that bad.
Yeah. Yep.
And,
I agree. Yep.
and so I just tried to do less of that. I don't
Mhm.
want to name it all, but
No,
I just tried to do less of that stuff that I felt from them to my kids. And I'm sure I'm just bringing in other stuff that, like, for example, I have the mouth of a sailor, but it worked on my older one. He doesn't swear at all, but my younger one does. It's like, damn, that didn't work, but it worked on one. So I don't know. I'm sure that my older one is just horrified. That might be what he tells his therapist.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think there's a certain gift that you get when you have your own children, and that's in realizing that parents are human too, right? And
Oh, yes.
they're all just doing the best job that they can. And the fact that you were able to recognize those very human elements of your parents, and that like
Yeah.
maybe dad's off this trip because he's also struggling with his own identity and as our roles shift from kids to adults to parents, um it's a lot to, you're probably going through a lot of that right now as your boys reach those adult ages where you're looking at how your roles have shifted for
Yes.
them,
Yes, very much. And especially in the teen, I feel like my older one he left the nest very early. Like he was definitely a blink and you missed it kid. Like, oh my gosh, he's always been a traveler and he wants to go places. And thank God for COVID, because we feel like we got him back a little bit, it was like, oh, this is great. But yeah, that hit us really hard, that when he was just social and out there. He studied hard, but he never missed a party, let's put it that way. And we went through stuff with him, and it was just shocking how quickly he was out, and we grieved that. And I think we're very now poor Marco, because we're just like grabbing every moment with him. We're like, we love you. And he's like, what happened? But so I was going to say something else about that. Oh, the other thing with, I think, our parents and maybe your parents, they were very young. My mom got engaged at 18 and married at 20, I think, and had my brother at 21. And so I think we were older. So and the other thing with my dad, I wrote the book. It took me a long time to write it because, it was parenting and, so I only had certain hours in the day, and I had a lot of distance from a lot of that stuff. So I wasn't writing out of the direct sort of pain and conflict. I was writing from a very distant place of it. And I really could see where he came from.
Yes.
Yeah, the hurt had gone. I'd actually done some therapy about all that.
Yeah.
And realized, I realized it all, my big fault in that, and where he was coming from. And we've really come to a big place of peace. But I was in conflict with my dad for years. Even though I loved him, and he's really amazing. Everybody who meets my dad just loves him. He's an amazingly complex. I'd love to write a story sort of based on my dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's an incredible guy. But yeah, we butted heads for a long time. But if I'd written it maybe like a year after, it would have been a very different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's also he's able to say I'm sorry too, which is very hard for people, especially his age. People get very stuck in their ways, but he's not. So yeah, I want to be like that.
Yeah, and I love even the awareness of time and space and talking it through, and all the clarity and peace that can bring, I think, is great.
Yeah, there's still stuff.
I think we all have it, right?
There's still stuff.
Okay, so maybe kind of final piece that I want to you to talk about is that when you were kind of lost on the island, you found some things that you remembered had grounded you before that really brought you back to yourself. It was kind of that balance of work and love, right?
Yes.
It was your faith, and I specifically loved the story about Angel.
Yes.
And then you also talked a lot about how at first you thought it was kind of crazy when people said they were a professional friend, but that you found that the friendships and connections that you were able to build with other moms or other women was kind of what helped you find your way home. Can you just speak a little bit to some of those experiences? Because I think, again, one of the things that I loved about your book was that you really offer, I don't want to say a roadmap because it's not prescriptive, but I think things that people forget that are ways that they can help themselves find their way home too, that are right there. You just have to,
yes.
you just
right.
be willing to take the step. So sorry. If you wouldn't mind speaking to just a few of those.
I love hearing you speak. Yes, you're so clear about it. Yes, friends, and I have these friends here. I have my professional friends here, but for some reason I needed to go to Hawaii and meet a whole new group to really see it. It's like you need to bounce somewhere else to see it. And I don't know how I got so lucky that I found these women who are still my really good friends to this day. I see them a couple of times a year. And I just met, through Rafa, his first day of school, where he was going to be all alone, he met a kid, and great kid. And he, and Joey. And so Joey's mom called me Barb. And for some reason, Barb and I just really hit it off. And Barb is very easy to hit it off with too. She's a great lady. And so I met Barb and I felt like she was just home for me. You meet a friend that is just on the same, like you're just walking on the same ground. And she was that for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I met this person. And her husband happened to be away at war. Her husband was gone almost the whole time we were there. And then Barb introduced me to her friends. And one by one, they were all different, but all the same in this particular way, that they were all, my friend Rika is from Amsterdam, and Irene is, she grew up in California. She's of Filipino descent. Lily is Hawaii born and bred, but she wasn't born there. She was actually born in Santa Cruz. But who am I forgetting here? Oh, my friend Joss is still my friend Joss here, and my other friend Allison. They both of them are not in the book, but they've moved here and we're really close. So I just met these women, and very quickly we became super, super close. And I realized that, well, I didn't want to have, like, I thought professional friends were, I don't know what, my friend of mine had brought up this idea of professional friends, and I had rejected it because we were both actors, and he said his wife was a professional friend who was actually one of my dearest friends. And I was like, I don't want professional friends, because I don't think being a mom is like a professional gig I want. I'm an actor. And it kind of took me being very close with these women very fast to realize that it's everything. And knowing them, and just them giving their hearts away so easily, and then me being able to give my hearts back to them, and they were the ones who took me around the island and showed me things that only locals would know. And Angel, there's a friend Angel that I met too, took me to some spiritual places on the island that were so healing, and she was so understated and beautiful. And I don't know, it was like, I think it was because it was so fast. I just marveled at these people, and that got me wondering about, does the island draw these people to it, or does the island make the people like this? And that's a very lost territory. And then saying goodbye to them was really hard too. And then I just realized that it's just the love that you find with people can be so quick and be so lasting, that it's just everything, really, especially when your families don't live here. And it's proven to be everything. It's 10 years later, and we're still in each other's lives in really strong ways. And it's the joy. I think it's the joy of my life, friendships, and the fun we have, and the laughs, and and the other thing that I really found, I know I wrote it in the book, but in fact, a friend of mine said to me too, she saw photos of the kids and she said, you can look at these kids. And I said, yeah, these kids their kids have just got open faces. And now that they're going to college and stuff, they've just grown into what I knew they would. Open, fresh, young adults that are willing to learn and adventure, and because they've been nurtured by good people. They've grown up with good souls around them that I somehow found in Hawaii, or they found me. It's just magic. I don't know how to describe it. It was just magic. And they grabbed my heart. And I just thank God for that. It must have had something to do with God, or whoever you believe in, whatever he, she, it is. And I really believe that. I think, I don't know. I don't feel narcissistic saying they were sent to me, or I just found them. I don't know.
I don't know. Sometimes I think the universe just works out what needs to be worked out. Right?
I know. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Yes. And I adore that. I'm so lucky. I just feel so lucky.
Yeah. Well, those connections that you made, I think again was such a highlight of the book for me, because again, I mean, I related to it so much. The people that really helped me come out of the fog
Yeah.
were the moms that, like, if I was really having a day stuck in my head, would literally let me just stand next to them on a playground somewhere while we watched the kids.
Isn't that amazing?
And then if in a little while we started to talk or laugh, or a kid somebody, I don't know, would start to suddenly have to go to the bathroom or do, whatever it was, you can bond so quickly out of the humanness of what you're experiencing. And I think that when you find people who are willing to share the same human part with you, you
Yeah.
have, those are your
I
people.
know, right? It's just
Yeah.
I remember some women we were friends going, this sucks. I feel like awful today. And someone saying, I'm here. Don't worry. I'll watch her. Just
Yeah.
sit there,
Yep.
or just laughing, then enjoy it, what the kids are doing, or just, I don't know, going away with them and, and just all bonding. I just don't know. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Even now going into summer, our kids are done with school on Friday. So 2 days. And we have a particularly long summer this summer. And already we've all said to each other, we've got this. Like, this is our summer. So if you need to drop the kids off, if it's too much, because all of our husbands work very long hours in their careers, and
right.
so we're pretty much, I don't want to use this term lightly, but kind of single mothers, or we hold a lot of the responsibility in our household.
Yeah.
Much of the week, and with running kids and doing all of those things. And so the fact that we've built the support community within each other is so special, because on days much, or days where you're like, I'm in the mood for an adventure, what should we go do? That one of those girls will be like, me too, we're in, and
I love that. Don't you love that?
Yeah, it's so special. It's really special.
How old are your kids?
They are, one just turned 11 and the other one will turn 8 at the end of the month.
Oh, you're in the best age for adventures. Just love that age.
It's wonderful. And they're coming to especially the 11-year-old, just to have some very mature moments where, like the 7-year-old will do something and we'll both look at each other and can't help but crack up, or like just those great, where you're you get glimpses of who they're going to grow into be. And it's
And I tell you, and when they get older too, I think it just gets better. Like when you just sit around with a sort of an adult, it's
yes.
kind of amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. You're helping my mother heart because I'm having trouble like coming to grips with the fact that I'm about to have a middle schooler and about to, it's
Oh
funny.
yeah.
Like
You
you
got a
want
long time.
stages but
It's
anyway.
kind of amazing when they hit this sort of, even my 16-year-old, she feels kind of young. Once they get to like out of that puberty phase, it's amazing. It's like, wow, look who you are.
Yeah.
Wow, you're like a person. You're an adult. And
Yeah.
you've got this great conversation. You make us laugh. And you're this fully formed like person. It's really amazing. It's really fun.
Well, and I just want to say to it, it's a beautiful thing in your book that you realize that all the things you were worried about, that you weren't. You were already more than enough for the three men that were in your household, just loving every single ounce of you. And I think that is wise and beautiful. And
A lot of that was Nestor, Nestor's so reaffirming for me. He sort of, I'd go to him, I'm not this, and he'd go, you are, look, you're this, yeah. Oh, thanks, yeah, okay. I have a good husband.
yeah,
Yeah.
to find that anchor and that balance and the partner, just the partner, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I sure dated a lot of I dated a lot of, what do you say, ducks before I got the swan. I don't know what you call
Or
it.
frogs before you
Got the prince. That's it.
Yeah, well, I anybody who has not yet purchased All Is Not Lost, please get the book. It's so like I continue to say, relatable and thought-provoking, and I feel like it's just full of beautiful stories about how love and finding your people is worth every single heartache, and love and finding yourself is worth it even more, I guess, right? Allows
Oh,
to be who you were always meant to be. And yeah, thank you for this beautiful book and for taking time with me today.
well, thank you for taking time with the book and really seeing it. And it just means everything to me when people like you just, I love it when people just read it and just really feel it. And it's like the book found you. I just love that. I really love it because I wrote it for you,
Well, I definitely heard and related to your message, and I'm very grateful. And as a mother of two boys myself, I found myself, I think, existing in a lot of those certainly not on Hawaii with my actor husband, but certainly
You have to go to Hawaii though now.
yeah, yes. You know what? I haven't been since I was 16 years old, and I'm gonna show my age. I'm gonna turn 40 in 2 weeks, so it's time to
You
go
look
back.
much younger than that, I must say. You are holding up well.
Yeah, so I'm very grateful and wish you nothing but health and love and a great balance of all these um, just grounding moments as with the next transitions you're going in through with your own family and your growing boys.
Oh, well, I wish the same for you. And I hope to keep in touch and just see where everything goes for you too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I have a feeling it's going to go in a good place.
Thank you.
In more of a good place.
Thank you. Thank you.